today, you're going to see me looking down a lot. I ended up making a cheat sheet for this subject because I wanted definitions and I wanted some pronunciation aids for what I'm discussing. So I am not just pulling the phrases I'm going to be using out of my head or out of my bum. I am actually going to be discussing something quite complex. So here we go. There was a councillor in Galway, Ireland, named, well, we'll give her her first name, Clodagh. I assume it's a sort of local version of Claudia. I'm not entirely sure. I need to look that up. But while I'm going to tell you straight out, kids, I don't like this woman. I think that she is a nasty McNasty face. That's not a slur, by the way. That's just how I say that somebody is a big jerk, sort of like Bodie McBoatface, but for jerks. So Clodagh has apparently been petitioning and asking for the city to put in these benches, which, as you can see, would be mildly uncomfortable for quite a lot of people and for various reasons. And she says it's so that people who are disabled and sitting in a wheelchair can sit next to and communicate with their abled partners or abled family members better, and says that a bunch of parents of disabled children had asked her to do this. I'm getting to this. And of course, a lot of people were like, no, Clodagh. What the heck? Listen, this is called hostile architecture. This is not good for anyone, including the people that you are claiming to represent here. So now you're throwing two very, very maligned and very, very at-risk groups under the bus in order to, and what hostile architecture is, I'm sorry, I used Wikipedia because I'm lazy. An urban design strategy that uses elements of the built environment to guide or restrict behavior. AKA, also known as making the public as inaccessible to the public as possible. Might want to rethink. So here are the benches that many people were discussing, and also accessible picnic tables, so that people in wheelchairs, if they don't choose to transfer from the wheelchair and onto a bench, can still be with their families. And Clodagh answered extremely reasonably to the millions of people who were trying to say, but this isn't good for disabled people and it's not good for the homeless, and why aren't more things being done for them rather than some poxy benches? Well, Clodagh was very reasonable indeed. And she retweeted herself and said that a bunch of parents of disabled children, I think you'll find their children with disabilities, not to be that person, had asked her to put these in. And one would assume that they would sit down with an urban planner or someone, even a carpenter, and say, hey, listen, we need something, blah, blah, blah. What can you design? And not, hey, let's put this really uncomfortable thing up that on very little children in wheelchairs, for example, would have arms, metal arms, right here, and also wouldn't fit people in power chairs. One does assume, oh, well, I was asked by parents of disabled children, and blah, 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 and basically pushing the responsibility onto them and coming up with a straw man. And we are all aware of the straw man argument. where basically you put all of the hatred and all of the emotion and all of the crap onto one person. Sounds a bit like a scapegoat here, but and then people can burn that alive and you don't have to take the responsibility. Sort of like the Wicker Man. The Wicker Man of arguments. Except for Christopher Lee isn't involved. Okay. Dear Clodagh, the Oxford Languages Dictionary defines a slur as 1. To speak indistinctly so the sounds run into each other. 2. An insinuation or allegation about someone that threatens to harm their reputation. Well, I do believe people were offering you help and were trying to say, hey, I think you're missing the mark here. Can you try again? Because that doesn't seem great. That doesn't seem great for the people that you are claiming to represent. Now, if I were to just call you, say, a person with mashed turnips for brains, that's verbal abuse, but it's probably not a slur, unless, of course, you were apparently telling the public that you weren't, and just running under the banner of, I do not have mashed. So, now, if I call you a mashed turnip, a person with mashed turnips for brains, that's nasty verbal abuse, in which I compare you to a vegetable. It is not, however, a damage to your reputation, especially evidenced by what we're seeing. No offense here. I do not like calling anyone moronic. However, you are basically just doubling down on your crap and bringing in straw men. Oh, well, I saw the tweets where people were telling me, hey, why don't we look at this, Clodagh? This seems like a slightly better idea. Or even, hey, this would be great. And also one person who actually was discussing something called a kissing gate, which sounds rather adorable, like a place where two lovers might kiss goodbye after their tryst, but isn't. It's a type of gate that allows people but not livestock to pass through, courtesy of Wikipedia. And this was brought up somewhere in the thread because one lady was getting upset that her little mother could not actually get her 3-wheeled bike through, and that she found it rather complex to try to get everything closed. So really not accessible for disabled people or the elderly. Now, we might come to the why hospital architecture, Beth. Are the homeless entitled to sleep outdoors or on benches? Well, no. No one is entitled to sleep rough. No one is or should be entitled to being exposed to the elements and to have that upon misery and pain and substance abuse issues, which need better care and need more support and better doctors, by the way. And in closing, so no one's entitled, but I'm going to borrow a line from Blackadder in the episode where his Puritan aunt and uncle visit, and he scandalizes Auntie by saying, needs must when the enemy farts in your lap. Which is as good a saying as any. Basically, it's making the best of a bad situation and just trying to get through. And you can, oh, well, you know, those scroungers need to get up and get gerbs. Keeping in mind that people have been locked up for, like, ever. And at the moment, all we're getting is more crap from our governments, Clodagh. So, may I suggest that while it is absolutely abusive to refer to you as Miss Turnip for Brains, it might actually be accurate. So that's also not a slur, because if it's accurate, it is no longer an insinuation or an allegation. It is simply speaking the truth. Once again, I don't like insulting people's intelligence. I do not like thinking that human beings are stupid or worthless or that they can't change. However, I'm also very, very anti-politician and say for the most part, they're not worth the toilet paper that they're not worth the price of the toilet paper that their policies are based on, that change with whichever donor gives them the most ka-ching, ka-ching. So anyway, to end this, think about this. Many people with disabilities are indeed homeless. Many people who are homeless have disabilities. And I know it is a tough thing to help either of these situations, but more support is needed, not essentially, oh, and straw manning? Oh, come on, you're a bright girl. Okay, you're not. And you can do better than this. So get up off your rear end, quit having a pity party, and actually do something. Oh, and the lady with the kissing gate problems, she has a bit of a problem, and maybe you should actually do something regarding the kissing gates. Okay, bye-bye.